So you decided you're going to take the plunge and pour yourself a tall glass of that Kool-Aid and join the GMRS world. You may have even already set in for your license and now you're rearing to go, but aren't quite sure which radio to pick. As with any growing market, there is an overwhelming amount of radios out there, with new models appearing all the time. While people like myself can rate and review radios all day and give you our opinions on them, they're just that, opinions, and ultimately, it's up to you to make the right choice when it comes to your first radio. In this video, I'm going to explain to you 5 of the most important factors to choose when picking your GMRS radio. To make room for the more pertinent information, I'm going to get one thing out of the way, and that's price. Of course, price is going to factor into anything we ever do, so saying it here would be an insult to your intelligence. I will tell you up front, you can expect to pay between about $40 for an acceptable GMRS handheld radio to over $150 for one of the top-of-the-line models from brands like Ocean, and anywhere from under $100 to over $400 for a higher-powered mobile or base station unit. Factor number 1. Form factor and IP rate. The first consideration here is going to be mobile versus handheld, or HT for short. For the grand majority of you, a good HT is going to be perfect as your first radio. In fact, the only people I would consider directing towards a mobile would be people who are looking to use their radio for strictly off-roading or car-to-car applications. These people will benefit from having the constant power supply and extra power behind the transmitter, giving them greater signal strength over vast distances. And it's just a lot more convenient to use when all you have to do is grab your hand mic and key up. That being said, an HT is a much more versatile option because you don't have to worry about things like wiring up a power supply or an external antenna to the unit. It just works. When choosing the right HT, you're going to want to think of some of the applications you'll be using it for. If you're someone who may be using it in the outdoors where it could be exposed to the elements, you're going to want to look for something with an IP67 or better waterproof rating. That means the radio itself can be submerged in up to 1 meter of water for half an hour and still survive. Factor number 2, frequency range and memory storage. When we say frequency range, of course, we're not just referring to the frequencies that the GMRS radio can hear and transmit on. Those are locked in and specified by Part 95 of the FCC code. What we're talking about is the ability to hear outside of those frequencies. Some GMRS radios go beyond that and include the ability to monitor things like the NOAA weather stations and various other UHF and VHF sources like first responders and business radios. To be able to add more channels to monitor, you're going to need more slots of available memory. Also, having a greater amount of memory storage allows for a larger number of repeater, frequency, and tone combinations to be added to a radio. This is an option which will be much appreciated by a person who travels quite frequently and doesn't always want to manually change their squelch tones to access new repeaters. Factor number 3, feature set and expandability. This is the wildcard category. There are some very different feature sets starting to emerge in the segment that weren't present just a few years ago. One of the big ones is USB-C cradleless charging. Before manufacturers started putting USB-C ports on their radios, your only option to recharge was dropping the radio into a cradle. Other feature sets that are starting to make their way to the forefront are things like Bluetooth programming via mobile devices and GPS and text messaging. Last year, the FCC was lobbied to allow for limited data transmission over GMRS radios, and companies have started to bring radios with that technology to market. As far as expandability, what I mean here is something akin to the automotive aftermarket. Some radios, especially the more popular ones like the Baofeng UV5R, have extensive accessories lineups that you can choose from to make them perform more to your liking. Things like cases, extra and extended batteries, better antennas, and hand microphones are all options that can change your radio experience for the better, if they're readily available for your particular radio. Factor number 4, transceiver construction. There are 2 types of radios out there, the super heterodyne and the direct conversion or system on a chip, otherwise known as SoC. While I'm not an expert, what I can tell you is that super heterodyne radios employ a traditional radio circuitry, while SoC ones rely on a microprocessor to do their work. Radiophiles will tell you that super heterodyne radios are superior in every imaginable way except for their cost. They always cost more than a comparable SoC radio. However, for many, they are worth the cost because they sound better, are more sensitive, and hear better, and are less susceptible to things like bleed over from conversations on neighboring channels. That being said, most new radio operators will struggle to tell the difference and shouldn't shy away from an SOC radio just because radio snobs say they aren't any good. This is especially important if cost is a major determining factor, as some radios like the KG935G from Ocean offer a powerful feature set at an attractive price by going with an SOC radio versus a super heterodyne one. Factor number 5, customer support. Look, all of these radios are produced overseas. No matter how much certain manufacturers and distributors of these radios want to shamelessly wrap themselves in the flag, not a single Part 95 certified GMRS radio is currently produced in North America, let alone the United States. There are basically 3 different types of vendors supplying these radios to the US market. There's legacy companies who used to make their products here but offshored production decades ago, yet continue to charge the same high prices while utilizing inflated marketing budgets to make you think they're still as American as apple pie. They tend to focus heavily on the off-roading and overlanding segment, where consumers are more concerned with how good a radio looks on the gram than how well it actually functions. While they bank on the ignorance of their customers to sell their products, they do tend to have responsive customer service and very good quality supporting materials such as manuals, because they're able to spend those big bucks they have to have them professionally produced. On the other end of the spectrum, there are the 100% offshore companies that might have some sort of fulfillment footprint here in the States, yet you'll be hard pressed to believe their customer service is based here when the replies from all your emails happen in the middle of the night. Their software support is usually trickier, their manuals are clearly written by non-native speakers, and their customer support is not always the easiest to communicate with. However, these are the outfits putting out the most accessible radios when it comes to price, and you can usually find their wares on Amazon at a bargain. The third are the American companies distributing imported radios. These companies either import existing radios under their own label or are an exclusive importer of radios spec to meet the proper FCC requirements, and then support them with native English manuals as well as in-country customer support. A couple notable examples of this are BTEC, who imports rebranded Baofeng radios, and By Two-Way Radios, who has an exclusive line of Ocean radios. Hopefully, this list of factors will help you going forward to choose a GMRS radio that's right for you. If you want some suggestions for my favorite radios, take a look at the links in the description below. I've selected some of the best models at each price point. Also, if you found this information helpful, go ahead and subscribe and ring the little bell so you don't miss a single new video. Until next time, be good.